Hi class and welcome back to Sun Devil Learning Labs. Today's topic is text structure, chronological order for 4th grade ELA. Let's begin by going over today's objective, which is I can recognize the characteristics of a text written in chronological order and write the most important events from the text in the correct order. So take a moment to read that objective in your head or read that objective out loud to someone around you and focus on what we will be learning today through our lesson. Let's start off by going over the different types of text structures we will be learning about this week. So text structures refer to the way a story is arranged or organized when it is written. So this week we will be learning about 5 different text structures and learning their characteristics and learning how we can recognize them when they are present in a text. So first is chronological order, which we'll be learning about and focusing on today. And then we have sequence. Next we have compare and contrast, cause and effect, and problem and solution. So this week we'll be learning about all of these different types of text structures and how we are going to be able to recognize them in a text. So let's go over chronological order. Chronological order is a way to organize our thoughts, facts, and information. Events are told in the order in which they happened in chronological order. So in a story that's being told in chronological order, the events are being told in the order in which they are happening, which is really important to remember in chronological order. And an author might include dates or other information about time to help readers understand the relationship between events in the text. So if a text is in chronological order, the author might include different dates or other information about the time of the events that will help the reader understand the relationship between the events and when they occurred. If you look over to the left, I included a tip. Our tip is thinking about the text genre may help with identifying the text structure. For example, biographies and text about historical events are often written in chronological order. So again, for example, biographies and text about historical events are often written in chronological order. Now, if you guys don't know what genre is, biographies or historical text, that's okay. We're going to be covering the definition for those 3 words in our next slide. And then if you guys want to come back to this tip and read over it again and really think about how you can apply it when you are reading a text, feel free to do so. Okay, so for our definition of genre, it is the style slash subject of writing of a text or book. In parentheses, I have included some examples, which are adventure, fantasy, horror, and historical. So genre is really just the style or subject of writing of a text or a book. For a biography, it is written history of a person's life. So a biography is written by somebody else, and it is written history of a person's life. Historical text that include true facts from the past, which give the reader an understanding of what led up to important events in history. So today in our lesson, we are going to be reading an article, which is a historical text. So you guys will be able to see a historical text in use later on in this lesson. When/why do authors use chronological order? It helps the reader understand the sequence of events that the author has chosen to write about. So using chronological order really helps the reader understand the sequence of the events and how they have occurred over time. Without chronological order, we would not be able to fully understand the proper order of events. To explain a process such as the order that something occurred, and chronological order explains how something develops over time. So through the use of chronological order, a reader can understand how something developed over time, changed over time. And without chronological order, we would not be able to do that because it wouldn't be in the correct order of dates and time for us to correctly understand. So chronological order examples. Some examples are timelines, history books, events of a day, a schedule, historical text, and biographies. Events happen in a certain time frame and then they continue. So these are all examples of different types of text that we can see chronological order present in. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with at least a couple of these different examples. Next, we're going to focus on clue words. So these clue words are words that you can look for when you are reading a text and looking to see if it is written in chronological order or not. So starting off with the word itself, chronological. If we break that word apart, we have chrono, which means time, and logic, which means order. So when we're looking at the word chronological, take off the AL at the end and break it apart. We have chrono, which means time, and logic, which means order. And chronological order means the order of the text is told in the order in which it occurred, through the time that it occurred, through the dates that it occurred. So the word itself actually has a lot of meaning, which can help us remember what exactly chronological order means. Some clue words are dates. So if you see dates present in a text, times, eras, months, specific time, and first, then, second, next, and last. All of these words and all of these different phrases can be found in a text which is in chronological order. So it's really important that we keep our eyes peeled for these words when we're reading text, when we're looking for chronological order. Again, dates would be a certain date out of a month, a date out of their year. Times would be a certain time that something occurred. Months would be a certain month that something occurred, and same with specific time. We won't be looking for the word dates or times exactly in our text, but we'll be looking for specific dates and specific times. So ask yourself when you're reading a text, are there dates and times present in the text? Is the author trying to convey this information in a certain order? So is the text in a certain order? Does it start from the beginning of does it start from the beginning when something first occurred and then end on the ending of the event and tell us what happened in between the beginning and the end in order? Can I find any clue words that I know to be used for chronological order? So again, our clue words, which were in our last text, look for those when you're reading a text and see if you can find any clue words that you know to be used for chronological order. And does the text explain how something occurred over a period of time? So again, does the text describe when something first began and then describe it to the ending of when it occurred and what happened in between all that time in order? That's a very important question to ask yourself when looking for chronological order. So take a moment to pause the video and grab a pencil and a piece of paper. And when you are ready, unpause the video and we will begin with our activity. Okay, now let's practice finding the chronological order of a text. So we are going to be using a chronological order graphic organizer. So what I want you guys to do is take your piece of paper in front of you and draw a chart similar to the one I have on the screen. In your chart, I want you guys to have 5 different boxes, which will give you enough room to write at least one sentence in there. And number the boxes 1 through 5. Now, if you notice in the chart, the graphic organizer chart that I have on the screen, it is already filled in. Now, it is filled in with different important events that happened throughout the text that were very important in the chronological order sequence. But the thing is, they are not in the correct order. So it's your guys' job to unscramble these sentences and put them in the correct order in which they happened in the text while I am reading. So you're going to be putting these sentences in chronological order in the correct way in which they occurred in our story, in our article, and fill that into your graphic organizer. So again, on your chart right now, you guys should just have it numbered. You should have 5 different boxes numbered 1 through 5. And now you see the 5 sentences. Do not put those into your graphic organizer unless you want to. I think it would be easiest if you guys wrote these sentences at the bottom of your paper or at the top of your paper and wrote them into your chart as I read and as you notice them being stated in order as I read our text. So you can do it any way you want. If you want to write these sentences into your chart as how I have it right here on the screen, you can. And you can just erase the numbers and put the correct numbers in front of each sentence. Or what you can do is write the sentences at the top of your paper or the bottom of your paper and fill them in according to their correct number as I read. So these 5 sentences, when I am done reading our text, we should have them in order as how they occurred in our text from 1 to 5. 1 being the beginning and 5 being the end. So it is our job to unscramble the order and make the order correct in the way they happened in the story. So it's our job to make these 5 sentences fill in to our graphic organizer in chronological order, in our correct chronological order according to our text. So if you guys need to pause your video real quick, go ahead and do that and write out your chronological order graphic organizer and make sure to have your sentences somewhere on your paper to help you be able to look back on these sentences and know exactly what sentences we are going to be putting in order on our graphic organizer. And during our read aloud of our historical article, feel free to pause the video throughout to have more time to read or look at pictures. Look up any words that you are unfamiliar with or are confusing to you. And pay close attention to the order in which the events are occurring. And make sure to write these events into your chart in the correct order. Growing up right. On the left, we have Orville Wright, made the world's first successful piloted engine-powered airplane flight. And on the right, we have Wilbur Wright, wrote a letter to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., requesting information about aeronautics to help him and Orville with their aircraft designs. So on the left, in the left photo, we have Orville Wright, and on the right, we have Wilbur Wright. So let's learn about the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers were interested in flying from a young age. As children in Dayton, Ohio, their favorite toy was a small helicopter-like object that was powered by a rubber band to twirl its blades. Fascinated by the toy and its mechanics, the brothers hoped to one day build a flying machine big enough to hold them both. So in this first paragraph, we actually had our first important event that occurred in our chronological order, which is written in our graphic organizer for chronological order. You guys should see that sentence located somewhere on your piece of paper, and make sure to fill that into your graphic organizer. As young men, the brothers went into business together, first operating a printing press, then a bicycle repair shop. Eventually, the duo began selling their own custom-made bicycles to customers. But the brothers never lost their love of flying. At the time, other aircrafts, such as gliders or aircrafts without engines, did exist, but the Wrights wanted to add more power to the objects they were flying. In 1899, the brothers began experimenting with building their own aircrafts. And if you look at the photo in the top left corner, it says, before experimenting with airplanes, the Wright brothers ran a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. So this is a photo of the Wright brothers bicycle shop. And then our last paragraph, up, up, and away. In 1900, the brothers traveled from Ohio to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, to begin their flight experiments. The oceanside dunes at Kitty Hawk had regular breezes and soft, sandy landing surfaces, perfect for their studies. We should still be working on filling in our graphic organizer. The brothers first conducted tests with kites before experimenting with their gliders. Both Orville and Wilbur separately piloted the gliders during their testing process. So if you look at this picture, we have Orville and Wilbur separately piloting the gliders on each side during their testing process. So this is pretty cool. This is what one of our first planes actually looked like. In 1903, the brothers built an airplane called the Wright Flyer 1, which featured wooden propellers the men had designed and carved themselves. The plane also had a gasoline engine. After weeks of unsuccessful attempts, the craft, with extra fabric incorporated to increase the stiffness of the wings, took flight for 12 seconds on December 17, 1903, traveling 120 feet before landing. The plane worked. Both brothers flew the craft a few more times that day. They had flown the world's first successful piloted engine-powered airplane. So that is the end of our article, our historical article about the Wright brothers. If you guys have not completed unscrambling our sentences and putting them in the correct order from 1 through 5 on your graphic organizer, take a moment to do so and pause the video. And once you come back, we will go over the completed graphic organizer. Review of chronological order graphic organizer. So our first event that occurred in our historical article was number 1. From a very young age, the Wright brothers were interested in flying. That was our first event. Number 2. In 1899, the brothers began experimenting to build their own aircraft. This was the second most important event which occurred in our article. In number 3, we have in 1900, the brothers traveled from Ohio to North Carolina to begin their flight experiments. So if you guys didn't catch that as I was reading it, the order of 2 and 3, we could also look at the years. So we have in 1899 for number 2, and then for number 3, we have in 1900, which 1900 is after 1899. So we know 1899 comes before. For number 4, we have in 1903, the brothers built an airplane called the Wright Flyer 1. Lastly, our last important event that occurred in our historical article was weeks later on December 7th, 1903, the aircraft took flight for 12 seconds. So you guys should be comparing your answers to mine in your graphic organizer. And if you guys do not have the correct answers, that is okay. Just make sure to change them in your graphic organizer so you can, if you need to go back and review over this organizer to look back on your notes and to look back on what you completed, you'll have the correct answers to do so. So let's go over what we learned today. Today we learned the different types of text structures we'll be focusing on this week. We focus primarily on chronological order and when it is used. We learned how to recognize when a text uses the text structure chronological order. So we learned what clue words to look for and how to identify chronological order. We learned how to use a graphic organizer to list details included in an article into chronological order. So through our activity, we used a graphic organizer to list the details in chronological order in the way they're stated in the article. We also learned what clue words and characteristics to look for when we are looking for chronological order in a text. Awesome job today, everyone. We learned a lot about our text structure chronological order. I hope you guys enjoyed our activity today. And again, if you need to go back and read over the article one more time and really focus on the chronological order that is stated throughout the text. Awesome job, everyone. Bye-bye.